Hello again and welcome back to the shop. Last week I had a lot of fun making pen blanks from dowels made of scrap wood. This week I decided to give it a little bit of a twist and sort of step it up. If you guys are anything like me, when you have a pen that doesn't turn out, you probably just can't bring yourself to throw that blank away. So I have a number of pen blanks laying around the shop, partially turned, that have 7mm brass tubes in them. What I decided to do was turn those pen blanks down to 10mm, once again with my tenon, insert them into a blank, and then turn a 1/4-inch dowel to insert into the brass tube. Made for a very interesting blank, and it made for a very interesting pen. This is the long version of that video. Now in this video, I had a couple of blowouts while turning the pen. So I went ahead, left the camera on, and just sort of filmed my thought process as I talked my way through the fix and demonstrated or made the fix. If you're not interested in seeing all of that extra information, because unfortunately this is a relatively long video, I do have a short version of this video that just shows building the pen, turning the pen, and finishing the pen. I'll put a link to that in the comments below. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in seeing how I made this pen, stick around and I'll show you. What I have here are some old pen blanks. These are 7mm from Slimlines, and over the years I've had blanks that I've messed up. You can see where I've chipped some off. I've had some that were being used for experimentation and it just didn't pan out the way I wanted it to, and I can't bring myself to throw them away. They're all tubed up. They've got 7mm tubes in them. What I'm going to do is put them on my mandrel. I'm going to use my 10mm tenon tool, and I'm going to turn the outside dimension of each of these blanks to 10mm. What I'm going to be doing now is making a 1/4-inch tenon. Now this is a 1/4-inch box wrench, and I've ground the short end off to make it into a tenoning tool. I've already sized the end of this, so I knew how far down to take this with my roughing gouge. I just want to do a little bit at a time. I don't want to turn the whole thing down to 1/4-inch. We'll turn this section, then we'll cut it back a little bit and turn the next section, cut it back a little bit. Because if I get it too thin, I'm just not going to be able to make the tenon. It's just going to be too flexible. I just hit that with a little bit of 300 sandpaper just to take any burrs off, and I should have a pretty good 1/4-inch tenon now. What I want to make sure of is that the tenon will go inside of this pen blank that I've turned down to 10mm, and it's a little fat, so I'm just going to take some sandpaper and I'm going to clean it up. I'll use my tailstock to keep it from wobbling around too much. Now that I've taken my old pen tubes, which were useless to me as pens, and I've turned them down to a 10mm diameter, I'm ready to drill some holes in a blank and glue them in. Now this blank, it will be for a slimline pen. I've marked the center, and these two ends will actually be cut off, and it was just easier to go from the center out than it was to try to save the block of wood on either end. But I've marked a couple of spots where I'll drill 10mm holes, and I will insert this pen tube into those holes and glue it in. I almost forgot to record what I'm doing. I'm taking the old pen tubes that have been turned down to 10mm, and I'm gluing them into the holes that I drilled, 10mm holes that I drilled in my blank. So let's go ahead and get the next one glued in. Okay. And I use a little mallet that was a gift from Chris Pine. I'm just driving it right down in there. I'm going to turn around here and shoot it with a couple shots of an activator. And now I'll just continue to do that, and I'll glue one of these blanks. I've got several more blanks into each one of the holes, and I'll come back when they're all glued in and show you what it looks like. I've got all of my old pin blanks driven into my cherry blank. I think they look pretty cool like that. I'm going to go ahead and get each of them cut off, and then after I cut them off, I'm going to insert a 1/4-inch dowel into the center of each pin blank. Now what I want to do is take these 1/4-inch dowels, and the darker holes I'll drive the maple into, and the lighter colored holes I'll drive the walnut into. I want to drive that a little bit farther through because I've got the divot in the end from the tailstock. That'll probably get turned away, but I want to make sure it's not a problem. So let me go ahead and I'll put the walnut in this lighter hole here. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is shoot these with a little bit of my accelerator. And then I'll cut them off and continue to fill the rest of the holes, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when I've got all the holes filled. And here's the blank. Now it looks a little bit ugly right now, but I think that'll change as we turn it. I'm going to go ahead and get it cut, get it drilled, and get the tubes glued in it, and then I'll turn it into an ink pen and show you guys what it looks like. Well, I had a catch, and you can see I lost part of my pin. I was going to try to repair this if I can. I'm just taking a look at it, trying to figure out the best way. It caught the pieces. Whoops. I'm just not sure which way this one went in. Is that right? Nope, I got it in backwards. There we go. No, maybe I don't have it in backwards. Okay. Let's release the pressure on the tailstock here because I don't want any excess pressure in there when I try to glue this in. You know, I think I can, for the most part, fix this. I'm still missing a little bit around there, but I'll try filling that. That just stinks that happened, you know. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. But let me get my CA glue out. I'm going to attempt to glue this back together. I think I can get this working. Let me get my CA. I'm going to use a little medium CA glue. I'm just going to try to put some carefully on here, just to sort of glue the tube back in. Now let me try to set the top part in. This will be the tricky part. I don't want to go sparingly on the glue. I want to use plenty of glue. Okay, got that shot back in there. All right, not too bad. Make sure we squeeze everything down tight. Let's hit that with some accelerator. Get my finger off there before I seal it. All right, I'm going to give that a couple of seconds to set up, and then I'm going to come back and do a little filling with the CA. Well, I'm thinking I did put the brass piece in wrong because that piece there, you can see how it kind of got a little lip on it. It should have probably been turned the other way. I think that'd be okay. I'll turn that down. what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this area right here with CA. Try to get it to flow down in there. And then we'll hit that with a little accelerator. And then each of these cracks, I'm just going to roll this a little bit. Each of these cracks, I want to make sure I get plenty of CA in and around the areas where it broke loose. Made a little bit of a mess there, but that's okay. That'll all turn off. We're not going to worry about it. Let's get around these little eyelets here. Okay. Turn it over. All this area here where it came apart. I put probably way more accelerator than I need on there, but I'm putting a lot of glue. Okay, I can see where it's kind of sunk in right here. So I'm going to give it just a little bit more around this deal here. All right, now what I'm going to do is give this a couple minutes to dry. Since I put the CA on so thick, the accelerator will start drying the glue. It'll dry the outside layer, but since it's thick, if I start turning right away, once I turn that outside shell off, any CA underneath will still be liquid, and it'll begin throwing it out. And I don't want to throw it all over me and my lathe and everything, my camera, everything. So I'm going to pause for a little bit. I'm going to let this set up. Then I'm going to come back and see about turning this and see if I can finish it up and make it look pretty decent. Been drying for a while, and it's set up pretty well. CA glue feels pretty hard. It's not squishy anywhere. One of the things to keep in mind when you're turning mixed mediums is the difference between a harder substance like a brass, which isn't really super hard, but it's harder than wood, is as I'm turning, you can see the wood sort of get concave, and the brass sections will be convex because the wood just turns away easier. So you've got to kind of focus on these brass sections, level them out, then come back and just sort of lightly smooth with a very fine cut, smooth over the wood section. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing is I'm going to switch from my rough and gouge, and I'm going to move over to my skew and see if I can have any better luck with turning this. So wish me luck. Let's hope I don't get another catch, and let's see if we can finish this blank. I'm real happy with what I was able to do to fix the back. You can still kind of see right there the cracks where the CA filled in, but it doesn't look bad. It looks, pretty decent. You can see that I drilled the hole off center because you're able to see part of the contrasting wood here, but not over here. I think that looks kind of cool. I mean, it's just sort of a different design. What I'm going to do is, I'm feeling like there's a little bit of run out on the right-hand side here, or for me, the right-hand side. I'm going to reverse these blanks so that this one is farther back and I have a little more stable environment. I'm going to turn this blank back here. So give me a second to reverse that and I'll finish turning. Well, it's happened again. Let's see if we can get this back in there. I tell you what, you got to watch those little brass filings. They are sharp. See if I can bend this a little bit. Looks like I caught it and tore it out pretty good. That's a darn shame. Blank had a lot of promise. I think with some practice I could really make this nice. I just didn't have a lot of luck today. Something doesn't look right there. I'm wondering if I got that turned around. Let me, ow, brass filing right there. Got to watch those. They hurt. That's probably the one that caught and pulled it loose. I don't know. See if I can just fit this all back together. Yeah, that's a little better. Well, yeah, that's the way we want it to go. Well, you know what? The more I look at that, not sure. I'm going to get this piece back off, and I'm going to search around, see if I can find any of the little lighter color wood. I don't know if that may have been maple. See if I can find any of that to maybe fill that hole. If not, I'll get this glued back up and fill it with CA. First thing I got to do is get that little filing off there. I don't know if you can see that little filing right there, but man, oh man, that thing's got me 2 or 3 times already. It's sharp. So let me get this apart and see what I can do. All right, say hello to the CA glue. Let's see what we can do here. I'm going to put it on here relatively thick. Try setting this piece back on. It's extremely delicate because of the tiny well, shoot. I see the problem. Little piece of wood in there, a little splinter. There we go, much nicer. Now we're going to add even a little more glue because that's sort of soaked in. Set this piece back on. It's not fitting as tight as I would like it to fit. Let's get some accelerator here. Okay. Lost a lot around these. I've got one little piece here that I found. I don't even know which piece it goes in, so I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and fill this with CA and see how deep. Let me get this tool rest out of the way, see what I can make this look like. Go. It's drooling down in there. I'm worried it just may be drooling out the other side. You know what? Let me shoot it with some CA. What that'll do is form a... There it is. It is coming out the other side. That'll just let it sort of solidify, and maybe it'll be able to hold a little CA this time. Yeah, much better. Boy, I sure hate that this happened. This blank looks so cool. I was having such a good time making it, and then to have something like this happen just really stinks. All right, I'm going to let this sit for a bit and dry, and we'll come back, check it over, and start turning again. You're not going to believe this. After I got it all glued up, look what I found. I found the piece that I was missing, so no chance of getting it in there now. We're just going to have to live with what we've got and chalk this up as a learning experience, and next time around we'll make a much nicer one and do a much better job. Overall, for what the blank's been through, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, it doesn't look too great either, but you know, this is a cool idea. I've got a couple of divots here, or I guess they were air pockets from the CA. I'm going to go ahead and fill those in, and then I'll come back and I'll do one last cleanup on this blank, or one last light pass on this back blank, and we'll start sanding. This one, I did a much better job of drilling down the middle of the blank. I mean, look at that. It's kind of cool. They look like, I guess, eyes maybe. Really like that effect. On this side, I got a few tiny little holes. I'm just going to put a light layer. And I'll stop squeezing it. I'm just kind of rubbing it around there. So it's... Okay, there's that side. Now this side is the one with the holes. So I want to make sure I get some glue down on these holes. And then a little bit of glue around the outside. Shot of accelerator. Alright, we're going to let that dry for just a couple of seconds. And then I'm going to go ahead and just clean it up. I'm at the point now where I'm going to go ahead and sand. Definitely not going to leave the camera on for that. I'm going to run through the grits from 150 up to about 400. Then we'll come back and apply a finish and see how she looks. Got my blank sanded and I wiped it down with a little denatured alcohol. I'm just really sorry that this one had the issues that it had, because it was turning out to be an amazing looking blank. I mean, I am super excited with how it looked. I've got some more of these pin parts that just didn't work out for pins. I will be doing this again. One thing on my 2 catches, what I'm concerned about is I applied CA to the dowel, or to the pin blank, and then I drove it into the hole. And I'm worried that as it went through the hole, that by the time it got all the way through, there may not have been enough CA glue to give me good adhesion on all of my dowels. So what I'm going to make sure I do next time, I'm going to drool CA into the hole on the blank, then I'll apply it to the pin blank or the dowel that I'm driving into the hole to make sure that I have lots and lots of CA glue. So I get good adhesion, because I think that might have been part of why I had catches, because my tools were sharp and I didn't really feel a catch. It just sort of blew apart. But I'm going to go ahead and get some CA glue on here and polish it up and put this together, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it into a pin, and I'll just maybe keep this one for myself. Let's get this pin assembled. It's not bad. I think I'm going to give it just a tap. There we go. I like the ink to extend just a tiny bit farther than it did. That's beautiful. Okay, we'll get the trim ring on here. And now let me readjust for the back half. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to hide the area where I had to make the repairs by using the clip. So we'll give this a tap. There we go. And now that it's started, let me find the best way to do this. Let's see. I think right there is going to be good. Whoops. All right. There we go. I am really happy with how this pin turned out. This is definitely a trash to treasure. I have had some of these old pin blanks that didn't make it sitting around my shop, some of them for many years, and I just happened to to get the idea. I'm not sure. It just came to me. I don't know how else to explain it, and I'm really glad I attempted it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or a question. I try to answer them all. If you really like the video, do me the honor of sharing it with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. That way all of my new videos will be delivered directly to your YouTube feed. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Have a great evening, and I'll see you again real soon.